Surprisingly busy start to the week for financial market participants here in Europe on this Monday morning, primarily after the rather surprising news that the French Prime Minister has resigned, and that resignation has been accepted by President Macron. Of course, the French PM had a rather torrid time with things recently, and the parliamentary arithmetic remains very, very challenging indeed. So the resignation was potentially on the cards at some point this week, but certainly not as soon as today. Markets have reacted very, very adversely indeed. The euro coming back below the 117 mark, trading in the mid 116s as I speak. French stocks, the CAC down by about 2% or so, while the OAT Bund spread has widened out to 87 basis points. So fresh wides seen there, which I think will begin to be worrying the ECB. There's probably two real issues for market participants here. The first is obviously we need to discount a huge chunk of greater political risk premium than we had previously been expecting coming in to the trading week, which explains the knee-jerk moves that I just mentioned. But I think perhaps the bigger issue is that there's no real obvious way that the ongoing instability in French politics gets resolved. President Macron could choose to appoint a new prime minister. That would be the sixth in around 2 years, but that new PM faces exactly the same challenging parliamentary arithmetic and is likely to have just as many issues in trying to pass a new budget as Le Cornu and all of his predecessors before him. The alternative is to hold fresh legislative elections, but again, that is unlikely to solve the problem given the opinion polls where they stand at the moment. In fact, you could end up with an even more fractured National Assembly in France than you see at the moment, which would actually see elections having the net impact of making things worse as opposed to making them better. So a bit of a spicy political situation in France. There's no sort of silver bullet that markets can look to that will resolve this situation quickly. And I think that's why we're likely to see headwinds for French assets, in particular OATs, persist over the medium term. Of course, as we seek clarity on exactly how this pans out next. The impact on the euro, a little bit more questionable. I think the way I would prefer to play this is by a continued widening of that OAT Bund spread and probably a continued losses at the long end of the OAT curve as well.